Hey, welcome back, everybody. Of course, you know me, Dr. Keith McNally. This is Coach's Corner. I'm going to give this my best effort. Eve Voyavoda. Okay, I did pretty good. And so we've been practicing before we actually hit record. Eve, it's a pleasure to have you on the show again. Actually, this is the first time on Coach's Corner. We spent 2 hours on the question guy, and we need to share that video more frequently so people really do appreciate your storytelling capabilities because you had me laughing, even though it was probably one of the most traumatic events of your life. You were escaping war, and so, but you made it such an enjoyable, in the moment, present conversation, and I so appreciate that. But today I asked you back because I'm not even sure how to approach this conversation. You manifest things. I want to call you a master at it. I don't know, but it is something I am very unfamiliar with. Not that I don't have those conversations, but I need to know more. And you are the person I need to have this conversation with. Can you have this conversation with me?
Absolutely. I'm super excited to talk about this because for many, many years, I never shared this part in a way that I teach it. But funny enough, I teach manifestation in most of my programs. I practice manifestation for all of my life. And many times when I start learning certain techniques and being more specific about manifestation, I was like, oh, actually, that's my lifestyle. That's not just really what I'm learning. So yeah, I'll be very, very happy to have this conversation with you.
Well, I don't want this to be a history lesson because you just said that this was something that you do your whole life. I need to know how it's done, like the nuances, what you do. Is it a daily practice? Those kind of things. Because, like I said, I do know people who make this their reality. I'm not sure I'm ready to tap into that yet, but I do need to become familiar with it. And so, where do we get this conversation started? Like, how does it, like, what happens when you wake up in the morning, or, what is your mind thinking about? And I don't want to ask too many questions because you're full of information.
See, the interesting part is that manifestation, the idea of manifestation, is often mistaken with some random woo-woo kind of thing. And the truth is, it's actually deeply in our psychology. And so many religious, historical aspects are tapped into manifestation. So there is a lot of math around it. And also because we have several schools presented right now who teaching manifestation, it also creates a lot of confusion. So basically some of my friends and some of my students, they say like, okay, manifestation, it's random Google when you think about something or you want something and that fall in your, reality suddenly all of a sudden. So the truth is it's not like that. Manifestation is a process when your mind, your way of thinking pretty much aligned with that what's going to happen in your life. And the speed of how fast is going to happen in your life is also related to how many blocks of fears you have in your mind, how well you are focused on your desire, and how open you are to receive it. So that's pretty much the practice. Now, if you, for example, another mistake, if you will every single morning imagine that, for example, great relationships with a specific person, which is very, very common topic for manifestation, like manifest your special person. So, I mean, if you will tap online, you will find tons of videos like that. And you will be focusing on that specific person every single morning, and you will never achieve it. And here is why. Because in your mind, you all the time think that it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's like a carrot donkey situation.
Mm.
So basically, when you don't know the foundational principle of manifestation, we many times end up with endlessly wanting something and never manifesting it. So I hope today we're going to talk about these elements so many people understand how manifestation work and so they can manifest things in their life.
So, I am familiar with the book The Secret, right?
Mhm.
And I think it's the accompanying book, Magic or The Magic or something like that. And to be quite honest, I am don't know the author's name, although the book has sold millions, and I
Mhm.
feel foolish for saying that. But I say that to say I am only familiar with the book. I have not read it all the way through, and I have no real intention or desire to do that because for me, it's a bit, and I'm going to say the word scary, scary. It's scary. It feels weird. It feels awkward. And I don't like to feel that way. And so that's why I want to approach this conversation. Not that I don't understand the spirituality of things, but I am very much a practical guy. I sit down
Mhm.
to my desk, I do work, I expect there to be a result. I invest time, energy, effort, there's an outcome. So when we had a real brief conversation before, the way you mentioned it seemed to be very practical in nature. Not that there isn't a spiritual component, but you do something, you practice it, there's an outcome. There should be an expected outcome at the very least. Am I kind of close to the ballpark or tell me?
Pretty much, you're much closer than many people who think about manifestation or present manifestation in modern YouTube culture, let's say. Let's dive a little bit in the history so we don't spend much time, but it will give you an idea why there is so much woo-woo around. So first of all, manifestation is within every religious book because that's an essence of how we live on this planet as species. We manifest everything in life, and whatever happened in your life, good or bad, is all manifested. That's what we need to understand as the ultimate reality. Because if you look for that from the perspective of physics, let's say, we all, all the particles, we consistently moving, there is no matter as such. And if you will look on it from the perspective of quantum physics or whatever kind of things, we will see it completely different, like from perspective of particles and waves and all this kind of jazz. So when we think about our reality, we manifest everything. The thought is first, and then something happens into reality. Whether we create it with our hands, whether we purchase it, but that manifested somehow in our reality, in a close proximity of we can possess something in our life, let's say. Now, there's a lot of things which are related in literature to this manifestation process, and they are kind of religious or kind of woo. Let's say if we will go beyond, let's say, Bible or any religious books, we will come to a very, very high rise of the esoteric. That was approximately 20th of 20th century. So Blavatsky, we will talk about all these guys who were speaking a lot about manifestation like Neville Goddard, like we will speak about goodness, what's going on with Florence Scovel Shinn. So there are plenty of scholars who were talking and writing about manifestations. And those books are really interesting and worth to research. However, they always spoke from the perspective of God because at that specific moment, they speak a lot from the perspective of religion. Now, there are many scholars, they were all speaking from perspective of their own religion, so that creates extra confusion. The good part about 20th or 20th century that people were doing a lot of things based on their true desire to research and dive into subjects. So there was no that much of commercial aspect in that. That's why I personally love that period of time and love the books from that time because all our modern culture, esoteric culture, or like, new age culture, whatever cultures who put this topic, let's say, into trendy topic, those happened approximately 1950s, 90s, 70s, when there was a very strong commercial component in it. So if you will speak about Louise L. Hay, and we will speak about, I don't remember what the name of that school where she was, let's keep that technological term, they were speaking a little bit differently about the subject. So it was a lot more thoughts. And you can imagine, to be honest, at least in my mind, whatever Louisa Hay is writing in her books, for some reasons reminds me Jane Fonda, reminds me all these dancing people in some, very bright rituals, aerobics and all this kind of things, pop music on telly and all this kind of thing. And this commercial component feels like a teleshop or something like this. So they sell a lot more and they take the true believing component from that. So that's where it becomes more materialistic. Now, if you will speak about the modern world, when social media gets into picture, you'll find tons of people who are not really researchers. They listen and they heard something and they read something. They're not necessarily analytical. They mix everything with tarot, with Kabbalah, with many other esoteric teachings, and they have no idea how things are working. So I pretty much call them cargo cults because they don't know how things work, but they are ritualistic. So most of the ritualistic aspects in our history are based on cargo cults. So something happened, and that something probably was very scientific. But then people just repeat the ritual, hoping that something will get the same result. So what we hopefully do today, we will dive deeper into understanding how the things work from the more logical perspective, because honestly, manifestation is a very logical process and it dependent on that what you have in your mind. So the goal setting, the manifestation, they're very, very close to each other. The only thing, the difference between the goal setting and manifestation is that you're going to achieve the result and you're going to do a specific process to achieve this result or specific practices, let's say.
So I've got two thoughts running through my head, and they may not be appropriate because one of the reasons why I struggle with the idea of manifestation, it may be because of what you just said, who I'm seeing, quote unquote, practice it are those people who are trying to um, use it as a ritual, as like a routine rather than really understanding the foundations of what they're doing. And so, and I say that to say, if this really works, it should work regardless, and it should work consistently, and it should work the same way for everybody, and it doesn't. Meaning
Exactly.
this, what was that?
It actually does. That we're going to discuss. Go on.
Well, and I say, so my argument is this. My argument is always this. What I hear and see is that people use manifestation for monetary purposes. They want to bank on something. And so I see, we see and hear that, I see and hear that, whether it's on social media or whatever, through books or whatever, through business, whatever, relationships, there's some monetary gain to be had, right? However, there are so many social ills across the globe that if we could truly manifest something, we should be manifesting peace. We should be manifesting um higher rates of love, but things that are not necessarily monetary, but would benefit every human being. Eradicate homelessness, eradicate whatever. And so that's one of the struggles I have with it. And it may be simply because I'm ignorant of what's going on. And I'll be first one to say I am ignorant of what manifestation truly is. But I feel that if it was working, it would work across the board the same way with all people, and we would live a very happier life. But we see so many things falling apart around us. That's my argument.
First of all, I'm laughing because yesterday I was watching incredible comedy on that subject when the guy got all the powers in the world. And it's the funniest comedy I ever saw. And I'm not going to, I just don't remember the name of the comedy. I will share with you later. And basically, he was trying to manifest everything we were talking about, and it didn't work out. So I think that will help you to understand why it's not working out. And funny enough, actually, the film describes this very well. So to skip that question, we will probably give the reference to the film. So thing is, when I teach people, I'll be very honest with you, there's one fundamental thing. In a moment, and that thing is related a lot to most of the religious teachings, Asian religious teachings. Just to explain my background, when I was 5, I asked my mom, why is this 3 different stories from the different books, from different, stories from different nations? Why the story is the same? And my mom was clueless. She's like, I have no idea. And just to give you how terrible child I was, 5 years old, and what questions here? Really? And I'm neurodivergent, so I'm dyslexic, so my mind works slightly differently, just to be honest. So later on, I start researching the aspects like, okay, why the stories are the same? Why the stories are the same? And then the idea evolved when I get older. I had very strong interest in religion when I was 12, and so much so I baptized myself in the church, after baptizing, because in Soviet Union you are not baptized, straightforward. So I was really, really interested about the religion and everything, and I was in a search of the initial myth, which happened to be one of the research subjects which many scholars were taken as an interesting subject, that the esoteric scholars in ancient times. So what is the original myth of the world creation, and how things were evolving? So I get into this migration of people, of tribes, how they spread the stories, the storytelling. My interest in storytelling is actually come from them. But what I realized, that the initial myth, when I found whatever remained from that, was very, how to say, it's scientific. Whatever it describes, and it's the most ancient historical references to the ancient myth of Indian culture, it describes a lot of scientific aspects. So much so that when you read it, when you dive into it, you start seeing that, okay, what we're dealing with that is already cultural, because we obviously not dealing with the initial story. But you can see how things were adding on. So giving you an example of the mythological aspects, like the heroic myth usually that comes few centuries or maybe thousands and thousands of years after the creation of the world, every culture on this planet. Okay, so we're dealing with the specific ways, how things are working. Let me just tell you that the description of the manifestation existed basically in every myth when they explain how the world works. And we manifest every single thing in our lives. And every single myth and every single religion pointing that when you're on the right path, you are focusing on you and you are manifesting your own reality. And that what you see, what you focus, that's all your responsibility. Now, the interesting part, and I also found it through the research, and that's what I pretty much teach and saw it and practice many, many times, when we start, or we kind of ignore this true path, we start focusing outside. So you're like, instead of looking inside you, instead of being really, really afraid, most of the people feel that looking within, focusing on you, developing yourself, it's a scary thing, because you need to see true self. You need to see all good and bad. And most of us as humans, we are truly afraid to discover our scary parts. We all want to be nice and fluffy and happy. When I teach in my branding program, for example, I teach why. I explain that there is external why and internal why. And your internal why, you're probably never going to share. But that why will be the truest why of all. And it will be very, very selfish. It will be all about you. It will not be about other people. So we need to look within. Now, in a moment we start thinking, oh, but what about this and this is external people, external this and that. Unless you work on yourself, unless you generate your own resources, how can you help other people? You can just talk about this. You can say, oh, let us create happy external things. I call it egoic talk, because in this moment we avoid looking within, do the true work on ourselves, and we're like, let's help everybody else. you are not in position to help everybody else until you heal yourself, until you do the actual work on yourself. So you are not in position of that. So just don't look at that position. Heal yourself, build yourself resources, manifest your life better, and then give as much as you want for whatever causes you want. Nobody stops you from that. But the responsibility is you first. You're wearing your mask on you, and then you save with mask everybody else who's flying on that plane with you. Okay? Because unless you're conscious, unless you work on yourself, it just never happen because you don't have your own resources to help other people. So that's the reality of it. I know why I say it's a egoic aspect, that for many people, I will help everyone. I will not look at myself. I will not look at my resources. I will focus externally on everybody else's happiness. Well, you will end up extremely unhappy, probably quite a terrible person for everybody else, and you will do nothing good, not for you, not for others. And that's another reality of it, because you need to put the mask on yourself. You need to focus on yourself to generate resources to be helpful for other people. You are the source of energy, and you need to generate this energy, these resources, and everything else. Now, in your life, and this is something very woo, which I will tell you, and you will be like, no. This is something related to everything else in this life is a reflection of you. This is one of the theories which is very popular. However, it's, to be honest, I experience that a lot. I might not have an exact explanation, the scientific explanation for that, but if we will look at this from the perspective of psychology, there's a glimpse of science in it. So the idea is where you focus, that's the way how you see the reality. And let's say you're focusing on problems, world problems, your problems, you're struggling with depression, life is terrible. How do you think you will see everything else around you? Tell me.
Not too good.
Let's do that very simple exercise. I love this exercise. Not mine exercise, but it's awesome. So I want you to raise your hands up, more up, like happy posture, like really, really up, like, you know, like you are really, really excited. Put your head up and say, I am so miserable. Say it.
Are you
Say it.
serious?
Yes, do it.
I can't, I
Go
can't do
for
it
it. Go
now
for it.
because now I'm laughing.
It feels stupid, isn't it? Isn't it? Right? Now, do that another, it is two parts exercise. I want you to put your shoulders down, like really down, your head down, like really, really, like shrink. I said, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I'm the happiest person on this planet. Say it.
You stop.
Come on. See, this is the thing.
What's our
This is
body position have to do with any of that?
That's a very important part. The body position is actually express the emotion. So your emotions and your body language is always in sync. All right. So when in your mind you are completely miserable and you focus on everything terrible in your life, by the way, your vibration in this moment is low. And this in completely woo-woo way, but in more or less psychological style. There are many explanations about the emotional level. Let's say the anger, the like difficult emotions such as depression, they're usually the low vibration thing. So if we will compare Maslow pyramid, the emotional range, and the vibration scale of chakras, we will see absolutely same structure of the vibration, colors, and everything. So choose whatever, it's actually the same system. So as bad as this, chakras explained by Maslow very, very nicely. So, and I probably say something which everybody like, oh my God, what is that? That's true. So if you will just put them like 3 systems on the same paper, you will be able to explain these ideas to completely different people with a completely different set of beliefs or knowledge. But those explain the same state of your mind and your emotions and your need in that state. So imagine that your focus, when you focus on specific things, you manifest that type of reality. Your world reflecting to you the reality based on that focus. It's like on radio. And that's now we come to the book Secret, which you didn't read, because they explain it through the set of emotions. So the point of references was through the emotion. So when you are in this negative state of mind, your world giving you the same world as a mirror, just giving you that reflection. And you're like, oh my God, everything is so bad, so bad. And then somebody tell you, what if you can choose the point from which you see the world? What if you can work in your emotional state and change it? So you can change through vibration, like dance, you can run, you can eat better, healthier, and that will ultimately change your point of reference, your focal point. So if you change to a different emotion, you will experience exactly the thing. We just saw it through this exercise that when your body acts like happy body, you can't feel bad. That's why the many research, and there's a lot of TED talks on this as well about happy posture or hero posture or leaning posture, something like that. So your body position is also changing your focal point. So for example, when you do yoga, when you stretch your back, when you stretch your muscles actually feel better and stuff like this can change vibration. So now you see the world from the different point of view. Guess what? The world is just reflection of that where your focal point is. Suddenly, the same situation, same people look differently, act differently, everything is different, and they make you feel happier. And you're like, what just happened? I can guarantee you this because if you talk to people who use certain type of pills and stuff like that, they can change this very, very quickly. I don't recommend any pills or drugs. I can recommend breathing exercises. There is a system which is called positive intelligence, I think.
I've heard
These
something like
guys,
that.
yeah, these guys teaching very interesting things. So mindfulness, and when you change your focus on your body, can help you to move away from the negative emotions. So, for example, they can sit and do like this, like, you're focusing on your fingers and you're focusing so deeply on this process that you basically shift your attention from the negative situation in your life on this small movement, and it changes everything. It's the same thing, they change the position of your focus, like on a sound which is very far and sound very close. So basically, when you focus on simple body actions, these can change your focal point from, oh my God, everything is terrible, to, okay, it's kind of fine. And then from fine, you can move upper and upper and upper. Now, can you change your situation from absolutely negative to absolutely I'm happiest person on a world? Bipolar people do that quite easily, but it's not good for the body because I think we can compare it with the diver who actually dives super deep and then when they rise up super quickly, they just die. So it's unhealthy because we need some time for decompression. And because I learned a lot of spiritual things and stuff like this, I'm the most boring spiritual teacher from all because I usually say like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Let's do psychological practice at first. And you will be nice and healthy and you will not do anything spiritual until you actually can try. Because there are many spiritual practices which can cause a lot of trouble, specifically psychological problems, psychological damage. The reason is interpretation. because many schools actually working with they feel something and then they interpret it somehow. Now, interpretation depending on the person, how skilled that person, what this person learned before, how well they can interpret their feeling or their experience. So it's pretty much useless because you will have as many people with different interpretations. For some reasons, I knew it when I did read Bhagavad Gita when I was about 13 or something like that. It's the first time when it come in my mind, and it come in my mind with few different books like Tao Te Ching and other spiritual books. When you have the actual chapter, and then you have tons of explanation for different scholars for different ages and stuff like this. And I disagreed with every single explanation ever since I was a child. I was like, this poetry actually describes a completely different story. What the heck? Giving you an example, in ancient Indian history, there was a guy called Kabir, and his poetry is be considered like a romantic song or something like this, because he was creating poetry a lot about my lover, the female and male and stuff like this. However, because he was a spiritual teacher, in all his poetry, many people refer that this lover of his is actually love to the God, the universe, and stuff like this. And when you look on his poetry from the perspective of spirituality, it's a completely different story. So it's an angle from which to look on that ancient story. Considering we don't know the ancient language and, there is interpretation. So we lost a lot of knowledge. And therefore, when we look at manifestation, we really need to look at this from the very specific process, from a very specific, very clear point of view. First, between you and your manifestation, there are several things. First of all, it's between you and you. You're basically changing your alignment from I don't have this to I do have this. Now, if you would be aligned, and I'm right now repeating few millions of people who are teaching that, if you would be aligned with that what you want, you would already have it. So what you need to do, based on that what they explain, is your alignment with that what you want. Now, back to what I said about manifesting a theme, manifesting specific person, manifesting specific event, manifesting specific something. That's a difficult attempt. And why it is sometimes really difficult and useless. And there are many teachers who explain it differently as well. Like, let's keep all the religious and other spiritual explanation. Basically, when you are not aligned with that, there are reasons for that non-alignment. And when you want to have the specific person or specific event or specific something or specific sum of money, there are more problems between you and that specific thing. So to make it a success, you need to manifest on the feeling what you want to have. So you change yourself. In manifestation, you don't get something external. In manifestation, we're only changing within. We're changing this focal point. We're changing our alignment within so that now we can have it in one form or another. That is another thing that we need to give a little bit of wiggle for the situation to manifest. Because let's say you want to manifest a specific person. And in your mind, and that person is, let's say, available and everything is right, like, let's keep the difficulties. Let's say it's all healthy and nice. So, nice available person, your neighbor, let's say. And you like this, you don't know this person, let's say. And in many cases, people think, I want to manifest that specific person, so I will focus on that person. That person's supposed to be manifested, and hey, that will be amazing. Now, you don't know this person, okay? You don't know what this person is all about in real life. And if we talk about the people who are like above the age of 15, we understand that, okay, real life, and especially with somebody else, it's a lot of difficulties and a lot of kind of nuances when people try to understand each other and stuff like that. Because you have experience, now you will project this experience and all of your negative experiences on that person who is innocently just live near you. Because you want something with that specific person, and you're gonna, oh my God, this person is amazing. From this person is amazing, you will start imagining this person living with you, walking with you. First, it will be nice, and then all the negative experience will project on that person as well. And after a couple of weeks or stuff like this, you will already imagine that, oh my God, what if I will do this wrong, that wrong? And then you will experience a lot of fears. Guess what will never manifest this person? Because this is an average process which happens in everybody's life for specific person, because you have an object. Now, instead of focusing on that person, you can focus on how do I feel in a wonderful, healthy relationship. How I feel in a wonderful, healthy relationship without regards to any person at all. You can imagine what kind of feeling you have in the morning when you have like coffee together or something like this without visualizing that specific person. Somebody brought you coffee in a bed and you're like, oh, thank you so much. Feel good. You don't see how that act, you don't see somebody brought it. You can feel happy, excited that somebody cooked dinner for you or something like this. You both excited. Even you holding hands without seeing who that person is. You can imagine the warmth of the hand. You can imagine how you both walking on a beach. You can imagine how you both traveling without seeing a specific person, but having that very nice and warm feeling, how that's happening. Now, instead of in a moment, you will have like some negative thoughts like, oh, okay, I had like X amount of wives or husbands or whatsoever, and this shit happen all the time. And this and this and this and this, you have a list of things which happen usually. Obviously not your fault. We never see our fault in that, right? So thing is, you will imagine that too. Instead, you can already work on how this to overcome the things. For example, you're going to have discussions to figure out if you're on the same page. You're going to have some healthy communication. You probably manifest in person who will be happy to discuss with you all the things before it turns into something terrible. You start reading the books about this and you get even better imagination, but you don't think about specific person. You think about how you feeling about this. Same works about the work. For example, you want to manifest beautiful new job, right? Or new clients. Instead of thinking, I want to work with John, you think, I want to have a client who appreciates what I do, really happy to give me money. And you can imagine how like, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm so happy that, I found you. I'm so happy to give you even extra and the bonus and stuff like this. It's amazing. Here's your testimonial. You don't think about that person. You enjoy receiving the testimonial. You enjoy having this chat. If you will take book Secret, for example, which mostly talk about law of attraction, not law of assumption, which is often used in manifestation, the thing is that we can imagine how we can spend the money. This is one of the rules which they say you are not manifesting the money, you manifesting what happened next with that money. So you're manifesting on purpose. For example, you want to manifest $1 million, right? If in your mind you have no idea why you need $1 million, most likely you will never do it. Because that will be it will not be tangible. We most of the time can manifest something which we really, really want, but not attached to that. So giving you an example, you manifest, let's say $1 million. But instead of thinking of $1 million, you may want to have a new house. Now, from the perspective of universal spiritual law and everything like that, and from perspective of your mind as well, to be honest. If you want a house, why do you need a middleman?
It feels good.
it feels good to have $1 million, right? But the interesting thing that it feels good to have $1 million. And then what? And then what? Your brain, and now let's talk about science.
Well, wait a second,
Yeah.
because I warned you at the beginning of this call. We're gonna have to do a part two here. So I do want you to wrap up this idea because now we're kind of reaching into something else. That's my second argument. My first argument, like I said earlier, is if it can work, it should work across the board with every person in the same way. And of course, the only book that I'm familiar with now is The Secret, but now you just introduced some other books and some other scholarship, and I'm all into scholarship. Can we do two things? The first thing I want to do is kind of finish your thought. The second thing I want to do is bring you back because there's a bit more here because it needs to be applicable. I need to be able to apply it. And maybe I need to do the reading first to really understand before I can apply it. So, can we do those things? Would you be willing to do
Uh,
those things?
Absolutely, we can do that. I can recommend you a few podcasts to read as well.
Okay.
Let us finish this idea to wrap up the podcast with making it tangible and effective.
Okay.
And also, let's send people to that video which I made about step-by-step manifestation so people can practice until we do, until you read.
Okay. So 2, 3 minutes. Let's wrap up your thought.
Yeah. So most important part to understand it scientifically, your brain uses most energy in your body. And your brain knows that if the energy used, it has to be used for good. So if you work against you, if your manifestation goal, if you have some fears, if you think that it never happened, if you feel uncomfortable about that, it will never happen because your brain will not even start trying. So when you want something, and we talk about mind specifically, setting the goals, and that's the whole purpose in the video. So first you set up the goal. You know what you want. Now then you need to analyze your resources. You need to see clearly what skills do you have, what fears do you have, and overcome that. And I gave the example in the video about if you want to go to Japan and you want to study the martial arts, let's say, and you live in America, you want to study there for 1 year. What you need to know, if you don't know it yet, Japanese language, you probably need to start practicing some martial arts in America already. You need to think about the financial situation, how you're going to live in Japan. And that's a very practical thing. Now, you don't give your brain a chance to tell you, no, it's not going to happen. Now, if you have a fear of flights or something like this, it's still not going to happen because your brain will say, no, 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 that's dangerous. Now, next, what you do, you start implementing the things. You really, really want to do the martial arts in Japan, but then you focus on the process. You want it once, you imagine how you're doing this in Japan. You can have one-time visualization about the feeling, not about specific place. You can be specific place, but more about how you feel great every single morning before you go to the job, for example. And then you forget about it. You focus on doing these skills, adding these skills to your life. You enjoying every single moment of it, all the time in the process. You keep focusing on joy, on having fun with this process because you're manifesting your goal. And that will speed up all the manifestation processes because once you eliminate your fears, once you build resources, your brain no longer needs to stop you. Your brain have no arguments for you because if you will have $1 million tomorrow, your brain will be like, okay, what about your investment skills? What about taxes? What about this and that? What about how many people will come to you? And, oh, it's much easier to manifest a house.
Okay. Some food for thought, as they say, as the metaphor is. Thank you.
You're welcome. I see that you are not convinced. You didn't get the right
I
explanation and
am I'm overwhelmed with thought. So not that I'm not convinced, I'm kind of overwhelmed. I haven't been doing this since 5 years old. So, uh, so I'm at a loss, but it was, it was what I intended this conversation to be, and educational. Would you be willing to come back? Cause and I don't want to
Absolutely,
take up
anytime.
too much of your resources, because I know
I hope
having a,
people, if people will not be bored, let them comment on this podcast and they say we want part two.
well, I want part
Let's
two.
not be selfish.
Ah!
That's okay. Let's do a lot of comments and they just say we want part two. Let's
Okay.
see how people react to that. Let's manifest
I would, let's do it. Okay,
that.
everybody. This has been Coach's Corner. This has been Eve. I want to get this.
Thank you.
Wait. I got to get your last name. I'm going to do it before this
You
call ends.
Come on, say it.
What?
Say it. Eat Voivoda.
Eve Voyevoda. All right. I'll see y'all later. Take care.